What is a mind trick you know of? Learned this one second hand from a smuggler. People tend to notice things they're looking for, and once they don't find it, or even better, they do find it, they ignore everything else. So if you want to slip something by someone, make sure they catch you on something that doesn't matter, and they won't focus on what you're hiding. The story behind this is that in Berlin, while the wall was up, there was this smuggler who used to ride, every day, from East Berlin into West Berlin, or perhaps it was vice versa, I don't remember, with a bag of sand on the back of his bicycle. Every time, the checkpoint guards would cut open the bag of sand, search through it, find nothing, and let him go on his way, and every night he would return. They never realized that he was smuggling bicycles. While an effective example of misdirection, that's an old joke. In class, if it's a presentation where someone has to present without looking at notes or anything like that, and while they're up in front of classroom presenting, some people forget what they're talking about, space out, freak out, and lose their train of thought. To counter this, nod your head at the end of each sentence they say, confirming what they're saying. They will somehow use this as a motivator, and 9 times out of 10 will keep presenting without fault. You're a regular good guy, Greg. If you're in a crowded social group, restaurant, bar, party, etc., and you want to know if someone is checking you out, try this. Turn sideways from them. They will be either 90 degrees right or left of you. Then very obviously, look at your watch. Even if you don't wear one, lift your wrist, then point at your watch and nod thoughtfully. Overacting is perfectly acceptable. If they are keeping tabs on you, even peripherally, they will have a sudden urge to know the time and will either look at their own watch, cell phone, or casually look at the various obvious places where someone would put a clock. So yawning seems to be another method. However, do you think the world's most interesting man would more likely be seen yawning or looking at his watch in a social setting? After the Templars learned this trick, the assassin numbers dwindled drastically. I hypnotized myself into quitting smoking. Every time I had the impulse to light up, I simply told myself, what a strange thing for a non-smoker to think. Eventually I convinced myself that the cravings were anomalous and could safely be ignored. I was at the front row of a concert and needed to get out mid-show. No one was letting me by. I decided to fake like I was about to throw up. The crowd had parted for me like I was Moses. Worked all the way through the crowd. Not one person stood in my way for more than a second. When I got out, I just walked normally. Troll face. Another music festival crowd trick. Find a cup on the ground, or use one you have, and hold it high in the air as if it is full. Walk in or out of a crowd with the cup in the air leading the way as if it is full, and they will part, avoiding possible spillage. I'm a paramedic. When a patient is possibly faking unconsciousness, we have 2 tricks to determine if they're really unconscious or not. First, you can lightly brush their eyelashes with your finger. Their eyes will flutter if they are faking it. Alternatively, if they're on their back, you can lift their arm over their face and let it go. A conscious person will drop their arm away from their face. Finally, a trick to see if someone is faking a neck injury or neck pain. Put a thermometer in their mouth while checking their vitals. Then ask them a yes or no question while looking them in the eyes. If you aren't looking directly at them, they tend to answer with a strained huh or UNH. But if you're looking directly at them, they will usually nod their head. Someone who is faking the pain can do this with ease. And yes, there are a lot of calls where people fake pain, illness, etc. for various reasons. If you're trying to find something, try looking right to left as opposed to left to right. Your eyes tend to skim over things if you search in the direction you are used to reading in, so skim the opposite way. It takes me a bit more effort to do this, but I notice more details. If I need to remember to do anything at all the next day, I will put something in my room out of place. This works every time. Say for example, I really want to remember to email my professor before leaving for class. I will put a movie on the floor. I will initially think, why is that? Oh right, email Ernie. A key technique for me. Doesn't work if there's already a bunch of crap on your floor. If you ask a question and receive only a partial answer, respond with polite silence. Simply wait. A more complete answer will usually follow. This works wonders in face-to-face conversation. Just look at them and wait. Many people can't stand the void and will fill it with more information. When trying to convince somebody to do something, offer them two options, either of which is okay with you. Humans have a hard time selecting outside of the given options. Example: so, did you want me to pick you up at 7 o'clock or 7:30? Did you want me to pick up the $50 one or the $35 one? Etc. During a job interview, you want to keep eye contact with the person you're talking to. It makes you seem more alert and confident. Here's the trick. Every 5 or 10 seconds switch the eye you're looking at. It's such a small motion that the other person can't see it, but it makes your eyes look like they're sparkling, which makes you look very interested in what the other person is saying. Probably works for dating too. Clarification. Some people have asked for clarification on how this is supposed to work. To comment on the small motion part, you have to be a few feet away from the other person. Otherwise the angle your eyes have to shift to look at the other eye is easily noticeable. Comment on the sparkling. Since your eyes aren't perfectly spherical, when they move the reflection of any lights in the room changes slightly. If the movement is small enough, all the other person sees is the light's reflection moving on your eye, thus sparkling. Disclaimer: apparently some people can tell what you're doing and find it very annoying. If you're trying this and you get weird looks, you should probably stop. Or if you want to frick your boss. There's something in sales called the Sullivan nod. Basically, when you're asking someone something, nod up and down while you're asking. Their mirror neurons start firing and they begin nodding and agreeing with you subconsciously. 60% of the time it works every time. I found that this doesn't work so well for telesales. I live in inner city Akron, Ohio. Needless to say, there is a pretty high crime rate around the university center. So I took a self-defense course at the university and learned the best self-defense tricks I could have never thought of. Act crazier than the person attacking you. I'm talking mental patient on PCP with a bad case of Jack Nicholson insane. 9 times out of 10 they will see you as unpredictable and not want to even mess with you. For example, I was across the street from my apartment at a Circle K buying a 40 and a pack of smokes at about midnight 30 and this guy comes up from nowhere and asks me if I want to make some money. I reply no thanks, I have a job. The clerk behind the window disappears to get my stuff and I'm stuck outside in the open standing right next to what amounts to a drug selling would-be burglar. After a while the silence and tension gets unbearable and I ask him what his proposed opportunity entails. Just then the clerk comes back, gives me my stuff, and shouts out the window, "Yo, what's up, dental?" or something along those lines. The shady guy shakes his head and starts to walk away. I pay for my stuff. Start walking along under the lights along the white wall of the building so I can be seen in case anything happens, and I see to my left that this shady guy is following me, walking parallel to me in the parking lot where it's dark. He calls over to me and starts walking towards me. I'm all like nope, so I curve my arms up so my hands are in my armpits and I crouch down with a wide stance and walk sideways in a crab walk gorilla style fashion and start screaming obscenities about aliens and Arabic coffee. The guy takes one look at me and makes a run for the bus stop. TLDR. A guy started following me in a parking lot of a Circle K late one night, so I went into gorilla mode and acted like a paranoid schizophrenic, so he ran off. Strange things are afoot at the Circle K. My favorite works best in sports. It's more of a way to get into other people's mind and screw them up. Say you're playing against a girl who is just on fire, completely in the zone and dominating. Casually ask, "Hey, what did you change to X better?" or something to that effect. I've done it in volleyball where I ask a guy who's been hitting amazing, "I've never seen you jump so high before. What did you change?" More often than not it throws them off their game. Done it in hockey too. "Hey, your shot looks amazing. What foot are you leading with?" Or you can ask someone what they do with their non-dominant hand when they bowl. The results are always hilarious. If you have to exert authority, act as though your orders would never be questioned, and you'll be fine. If you have to throw someone out of a place, just keep advancing on them until they are out the door. I work security at a club, and this definitely works. When trying to get away with something sketchy, not illegal per se, but frowned upon, walk into the place like you own it. Don't glance around. Don't even stop for a second or look confused. 9 times out of 10 nobody will question you. You can get away with lots of things that way. Nobody questions a man with a clipboard who looks like he belongs there. It occurred to me a while back that a security uniform, any security uniform, will get you past everyone, including security guards from a different company with a completely different uniform. As a security contractor, businesses at malls for example will call me to watch their store specifically for different reasons, mostly at night. Once time I got lost, I ended up at the entrance of a closed department store at a mall, and the manager himself pretty much ushered me in. If I hadn't asked how to get to my destination, he would have just bolted off and I would have had the place to myself. It's not the first time I wandered into places I shouldn't be, completely unchallenged. Also, it's really nice for when I want to smoke a joint in plain view. Cops just nod or wave at me, no matter where I am standing at whatever time of night, with absolutely no idea if I should be there or not. And all my uniform consists of is black slacks and a polo with an arm and chest patch. Nothing flashy or even that noticeable. Most of the time I feel as though I'm just dancing in everyone's peripheral vision, and they contrive for themselves that whoever I am, I should be here and don't need to be questioned. It's a head trip. In a similar vein, if you have a white van and high visibility vest and hard hat, you can do whatever the frick you want. Have someone lay on their back on the ground and hold their legs straight up, so their body is making a 90-degree angle. Have them close their eyes and relax their body completely. Hold that position for about 60 seconds. Then very slowly start lowering their legs towards the ground. It's critical they keep their eyes closed and ask them to tell you to stop when they feel their legs are about to hit the ground. They will always say stop way before it hits the ground. And then you say, well, now I'm going to drop your legs through the floor, and keep lowering their legs down onto the ground slowly. It feels really weird and always works, but I guess it's more of a mind-body trick. The blood drains out of their legs and with their eyes closed they can't get a good read on where their legs are. I was expecting the words "and then you penetrate" any moment. In a job interview or tense first meeting, don't cover up your chest, just don't. And imagine that the stranger is someone you know really well, and after practicing this a few times, you will be able to hotwire people into instant rapport. Works 90% of the time. I discovered this one from my mother. Actually, if you're out and about and come across hooligans or other ne'er-do-wells that might be up to something, such as smashing things up, who might well become confrontational, you need to approach them and ask for a light, all the time. As you walk up, they'll be ready for a fight. When they realize that you, as a sole person, has approached them as a group and asked something innocuous and unrelated to their activities, they will very likely give you the timelight that you asked for, then shuffle off with a bemused feeling. I'm not advocating that you should go out and try it, but only if you might have to pass by an incident going on where they notice you and you don't want any trouble. Of the 3 times in my life that I have been in this situation, it has always worked. Courtesy of Darren Brown. If you want to keep the seat next to you free on a crowded train, bus, etc., look at the people walking towards you and tap the seat with your hand. Haha, I don't think you need Darren Brown to tell you that being creepy will make people not want to sit next to you. You would be shocked to find out how often "hey look" a distraction works. Sure, they usually get mad right afterward, but I spent the time between them turning and catching on to what they just heard leaving the room. Pro tip: it is best to do this next to a door, especially if you can get out of that door's line of sight quickly. Oh my god, that man has a tornado. If any of you have the opportunity, take a social psychology class. It's filled with this kind of stuff, most of which has actual practical application. One of the most fascinating things I came across in the class was about reflected body language. For example, if you believe you have a red dot on your head and you're sitting one-on-one with another person talking, you will probably think that they are acting uncomfortable because of the dot. But in this study, there is no dot, and the person is acting that way simply because you're acting that way, all because you believe you have a red dot on your head. The implications of our subtle and usually unconscious body language are huge, and 99% of the time we're completely unaware of it. I think this one is pretty well known by now, but when high-fiving, look at their elbow and you'll never miss. I tell people that the trick is to actually look at their own elbow, and then I give them a good smack in the face. If you want to make a good first impression, you should make eye contact and copy the other person's actions. For example, if you see the other person fold his/her arms, then do it also. Just don't be obvious about it. After a while the person will feel more comfortable around you. You can then try doing something like fixing your glasses or hair or touching your ear, and see if the other person does the same. Then you know you are in, and the person is copying you without knowing it. That means she likes you. Don't know if it counts, but in managing and sales we're taught to use specific wording. If I want a customer to go get 2 more movies to get the sale discount and me commission, we say, why don't you go grab 2 more instead of, do you want to grab 2 more? The difference between it being an open-ended and a yes/no question is money in my pocket. If someone is intent on fighting you, I mean, physically ready to knock your teeth in, try the following. Start off by calmly removing your shirt. Make it seem like you're preparing for the fight of your life. But don't stop there. Keep removing other articles of clothing. Don't laugh or smile, and with any luck they'll be gone before you're completely nude. My friend's dad, who was a career criminal who died from huffing glue, once told me, if you want to avoid being violated in prison, just crap your pants. Thankfully I haven't had to try this out. I call this one the Glenn Beck because he's the master, but really news sources and political campaigns use this trick every day on all of us. Want to plant an idea in someone's head and have them not be able to trace it back to you? Phrase the idea as a question, inducing uncertainty by using related ideas, basic word association. Bear with me. Let's say you want to get your wife to cook dinner at home more, and you know she associates home cooking with higher nutrients. Instead of saying you should cook dinner more often, you'd simply ask the question, Timmy's looking a little pale. Do you think he's getting enough vitamins? Let the target's imagination do the convincing for you. Vitamins, nutrition, home cooking. You just have to have an idea how your target associates words if you're going for a specific result, or the whole thing has to be generic enough to work on most people in a given culture if you're trying to change the tide of an election. A couple of these ideas, strategically planted, can completely change someone's disposition. There's probably a word for this whole concept, but I don't know it. I sort of rediscovered it in a vacuum. It's called inception. 1. Look me in the eyes. Do not break my gaze. 2. Tell me what you had for lunch 3 days ago. The person probably can't remember. It's a lot harder to access that memory without moving the eyes. Heck, I couldn't tell you what I ate an hour ago without some serious thought. If you have to hold eye contact to someone, for example while listening to a long speech which you find hard to focus on, or during a last one to laugh game, look at the opposite's nose. You don't have actual eye contact, but it seems like, thus you can avoid feelings you may have while staring into someone's eyes. The spot between their eyes usually works well too. Not really a mind trick, but if you have confidence in what you are saying and can back it up with false facts, you can get people to do almost anything. Go up to someone in a restaurant and tell them to close their eyes and picture a playing card. While they are doing this, eat as much of their food as you can and run away. I've done this many times. It's been so long since I've learned this, but here goes nothing. Take your left, perhaps non-dominant, hand, and squeeze your thumb inside it. Squeeze hard. Now, with your free hand, take your pointer finger and poke at the back of your throat. You no longer have a gag reflex. Enjoy. Addendum. Apparently, it doesn't work for everybody. Many people, yes. Everybody, no. And after reading some comments, I learned that a thumb is much easier and less sharp to poke at the back of my throat with. I claim no responsibility for any food lost during this, but if you have any food that has yet to pass through a digestive tract, I would happily claim that. Great, thanks. Now I'm going to have to explain to everyone why I'm covered in vomit when I go to the hospital for my dislocated thumb. If you are falling asleep in a boring meeting, sit straight up with both feet on the floor shoulder width apart. Then lift one foot up, but only an inch or two. No one will see it, and it is impossible to nod off in this position. You know that thing where if you repeat a word enough it loses its meaning? Well, I've convinced myself that there is some kind of similar thing going on with pain. If I'm in pain, if I focus 100% on the pain, and block out everything else, the pain kind of loses its meaning. I still feel it, but it's no longer pain. It's just What is? To clarify, I'm not claiming I could endure surgery without anesthesia or torture or anything, but if I've stubbed a toe or cut myself or something like that, it works fairly well. I tested your theory by plunging a knife into my leg, and I must say I disagree with your methodology. Hockey player here. If you start banging your stick and yelling "here here" while the other team has the puck, as if you're calling for a pass casually from your own team, they will not expect someone on the other team to be doing this, and half the time they will pass it. The other half of the time, though, you will look like a freaking idiot. If I'm having a conversation with two people A and B, and I for some reason want person speaking A to focus look at person B rather than at me, I'll just look at person B. Person A will almost always start looking at person B instead. Read it somewhere, and it works. Try it. If I'm having a conversation with two people A and B, it usually just ends up as a conversation between A and B with me listening in. I used to play table tennis with this clever B when I was 12, and she used to say that she could throw me off my game just by thinking about the same thing that I was thinking about. And I was all like, "You freaking reckon B?" and started thinking about strawberries, and not at all about table tennis. She beat me a shameful amount. My cheap butt father taught me this, and it has worked 100% of the time. When bartering at a flea market, garage sale or Craigslist, hand the person the amount in cash you want to pay, then suggest the lower price while the cash is in their hand. Example, "Me, how much is this?" That guy, "$20. Me." Hands him a folded $10. "How about $10? That guy, "Okay." People just can't bring themselves to give the money back once it is in their hand. They may not want to sell it for less, but once the cash is in their hand they can't give it back. When bargaining, it usually doesn't matter whether or not the other person gets a good deal, but whether or not they participated. If you start low and then let them bargain up to what you originally would have offered, they'll probably take it. Ah yes, I've seen this. Some suggest that you start at 10-15% what you desire to pay and you'll most likely end up at your budget. For example, you want to buy a widget for $100, but you only have $85 to spend. Offer $72 and you'll haggle up to that $85 mark. One of my best, if you have two friends, people that don't really like each other, doesn't work when there is a very specific cause for dislike. Tell each of them separately, and in confidence when the other is brought up. OHH. That's too bad there. Obviously, the other person, always telling me how much they like you, and leave it at that. 9-10 times within a couple weeks to a month they'll usually start talking to each other at gatherings and soon become friends. TL. DR. Trick people that don't like each other to start liking each other. I heard that if you're with a group of people and everyone starts laughing, you tend to first look at the person you like the most. It's interesting to note where everyone else is looking. Oh, that explains the group stare I get whenever I am laughing. This isn't a mind trick, but a biological trick. If you are trying to see something in the dark, don't look directly at it. Either move your eyes back and forth to scan, or look to one side of the object. The reason this works is because your color receptors are in the center of your eye and don't work well in the dark. Your black and white receptors are toward the outer edge. Old trick I use a lot. Ask a question, and then when they reply, just repeat what they say for more information. E.g., "Boy, when did you think of that movie?" Girl, "Yeah, I thought it was okay." Boy, "You thought it was okay?" Girl goes into more detail. If you want someone to do something for you, simply use the word "because," not matter what you say after that. There was a study a while back about people who were lined up to use a copy machine. One person came up and said, "Can I use the copy machine because I need to make copies?" A majority of the time they were allowed to cut to the front. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.